Well, now he's gone and done it. On Friday, Trump escalated the trade war, and this has the potential to suck the entire world into an economic black hole, a Great Depression from which we may never recover. This slows down global trade, and it has tremendous cost to the consumer, and it creates inflation. There's nothing good about this. This is what you do if you're getting ready for a real war. A whole bunch of times, trade wars escalate into real wars. All you have to do is look at history. He's operating from an opinion that's a fallacious opinion. He's got an opinion that this will make America great by bringing jobs home again, and it won't, and you can prove this. It comes at tremendous cost. While he was doing this, he urged China not to retaliate with tariffs of their own. And what happened on Monday? They retaliated with tariffs of their own. And so if you take a look at the economic processes behind this, you can absolutely prove that this isn't going to work, that it's going to hurt everybody. In this article, 25 Reasons Why Protectionism is Taken Seriously when it's actually a form of economic suicide, Mark Perry shows that it's taken seriously mostly because of politicians. And these politicians, in another video, I'm going to cover that they've been selling this stuff for centuries, and it's really economic suicide. Down here, he says that it is a scientifically and mathematically provable fact that all tariffs at any time and in any country will harm economic growth, eliminate net jobs, destroy prosperity, and lower the standards of living, that's for us and China, of any protectionist country, us and China, because tariffs are guaranteed by the ironclad laws of economics to generate costs to the consumers that outweigh the benefits to the producers. An economic analysis of protectionism clearly shows that Trump's tariffs would make us poorer, not greater. That is, the reality that tariffs always inflict great economic damage and leave society worse off is not a debatable outcome. Rather, it is a provable fact like the law of gravity. And here is the formula, the math behind proving that it always comes at a loss to both sides. And there's the 25 reasons down there. You can read this article later. But the small tariffs that he has imposed in 2018 already cost Americans $19 billion in higher costs. So it creates inflation of his own. The washing machine tariff cost consumers more than $800,000 per job created. And this is from a study done by economists at the University of Chicago and the Federal Reserve Board, jointly studying this. And they said that despite the increase in domestic production and employment, the cost of these tariffs, they estimate the cost to be $820,000 per job created. It's costing American consumers $1.5 billion. And down at the bottom of the article, it shows that the jobs that they're saving are $43,000 per year factory jobs. And we're spending $820,000 per job to save those jobs. In 2009, the Obama administration passed some tire tariffs, cheap Chinese tires. They wanted to keep those out. It ended up costing $926,000, but in these studies, it also showed that it led to the loss of 3 retail jobs per factory job saved. So this doesn't save American jobs to put in these tariffs. It destroys American jobs. It raises prices. It gets us ready for war because, right now trade creates peace. We're trading heavily with China. If we stop trading and we start producing everything we need at home, there's a period of time where we won't be able to get cell phones and computers and anything that's made cheaply in China, televisions and things like that. But once we do have the things that we need, we can then go to war because we're not buying anything from them. We're not linked to them economically. And that is what was happening in the 1930s in Germany, leading up to World War II. They were becoming an autarky, becoming very, very self-sufficient. And so, like I said, he's working from opinions, and the opinions are fallacious. A couple of weeks ago, I didn't report on this. I didn't think it was that important because I didn't think Jerome Powell would even consider doing rate cuts and quantitative easing just because Trump asks. But he tweeted that the economy would go up like a rocket if we did some lowering of rates, like about 1 point, and some quantitative easing. Well, Trump may just get his wish, because if they continue on with this trade war, China is actually talking about, now there's been talk that the People's Bank of China could actually start dumping treasuries. And when there's more treasuries on the market, the interest rates have to go up on all of the new treasuries being issued to be able to get people to buy those. So it causes interest rates to go up, which would pop our real estate bubble. And in order to counteract that, the Fed would have to do massive QE, quantitative easing, and to try and keep interest rates down. Here's a tweet that's, this is all very credible but very dangerous stuff that they're doing. Well, China has over $3 trillion of foreign currency reserves, and about $3 trillion of it is U.S. treasuries. And that's about 14% of our national debt that they have purchased. And I'll go through in another video later. The reason that they purchased this was to keep their currency low so that they would have this trade. They had a trade surplus with us. We have a trade deficit. But that surplus, they loan all that surplus back to us so that we can run our budget deficit. Trump wants budget deficits. He wants to be able to run these budget deficits, and the deficits are going to explode if all of this stuff happens. But he wants to be able to run deficits, and to do that, what you want is the trade deficit so that China keeps on loaning us back the excess currency that goes over there when we buy excess stuff from them, stuff in excess of how much stuff we're shipping over to China. Now, all of the QE, I've shown charts many, many times of how the quantitative easing almost exactly matches the rise in the value of the stock market. And it was basically a gift to the stock market. This is one of the things that creates the great wealth disparity that everybody is talking about. When you pump up the stock market, you create multi-billionaires and centibillionaires like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. When you pump up the stock market, if Bezos owns 16% of the Amazon stock, and all of this currency, the QE, flowed into the stock market and created huge inflation here. This is basically a wild, drunken party. And there's a saying, there's no free lunch. There's no free dinner and there's no free wild, drunken parties either. Someday the bill comes due. Economics is a closed loop. And what you see when I overlay the QE with this, they're almost an exact match. And so this bill, this warping of the economy, will come due someday. But the stock market has more than quadrupled since its bottom here. Now, they're saying that there's been no inflation with all of this QE. Well, this is what got inflated. The stock market went from being in a bubble to being just fairly valued here, according to PE ratios, according to the Buffett indicator, which is a measurement of the value of the stock market compared to the value of the U.S. economy. There's a whole bunch of indicators that show that the stock market had only reached fair value. And then they rushed in to supposedly save it, not giving American businesses and entrepreneurs any credit whatsoever. It's like the Fed is the only one that can actually get it to go back up again, is their belief. And they're all patting themselves on the back right now for supposedly saving the stock market. But the bill will one day come due for all of this manipulation. This party that they had, that has to be paid for one day. And when right now, the stock markets will probably go up a little bit higher, but it just means that we've got a lot further to fall. When this bill comes due, The next time, we're now in the longest economic expansion in U.S. history. And when this bubble finally pops, it's going to drag down the world economy. It's going to lead to potentially a global depression. It has me absolutely frightened. And they're already talking about how to manipulate things more. Like I said, it's a closed loop. The bill will come due, and it's the U.S. consumer that's going to have to pay that bill. I hope you got something from this. If you did, please like it, share it, give it that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click that little notification bell. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.